And welcome back. Now today you can see there's a few items scattered across my desk here because I've had quite a few deliveries from our Far Eastern friends and indeed some in the UK as well. So I thought I'd share a few of these items because they're worth knowing about if you're building projects for Arduinos or indeed any other kind of microchip, to be quite honest. So first things first then, my last video was about MP3 players. One of my last ones was anyway, MP3 players, and I thought I needed a speaker. So I've got these two here and I'm holding them so that you can judge the size of them. Now I got these from Banggood at a remarkably low price. This 2-inch one, this one here, it's 2 inches, 4 ohms, 3 watts it says, and it sounds okay for the size. I mean, you know, it's better than the average tinny transistor radio sound you might get. And this one is slightly smaller, 1.7 inch. In fact, I can show you these on my browser right now. There we are. So let me just bring in a couple of other cameras, workbench. Oh, and here I am as well. Right, so this one here you're looking at now is the 2-inch. That's this slightly bigger one, but it's still very manageable. And it's okay, I think. Oh, look, £1.84, which is probably about, what, $2.50, something like that. And then there's this one, which is the 1.7. Actually, I mean, the difference isn't that huge, is it? Just a tiny bit smaller, look, just a little bit. So the smaller one, was that a bit cheaper? Let's have a look. Oh, good lord, it's actually more expensive. Ooh, wish I'd known that. I'd have bought the bigger one, actually. But I didn't know which one was going to fit. And from that picture here, I mean, it's so difficult to judge, isn't it? Yeah, you can measure out 1.7 inches. What does that mean? You measure it out and you go, how big is that then? What exactly is it going to look like? So that's what they look like in real life. So this one's a lot deeper, the 2-inch, and the 1.7 is a lot shallower. They both sound okay. This bigger one sounds marginally better. And I wanted those to plug into my MP3 player, as I say, that I did a video on a little while ago, just to, well, be ready to implement it into some project, which may be my cat run, may not be, the receiver part anyway, I don't know, but I thought I'd better be prepared. So that's those two. Pretty good prices though, I thought, for those. The other thing is I bought 20 Ldrs because my current project used my last one up. They're only little tiny light dependent resistors, very good though for Arduino use, work really well. They go down to about 60 in darkness, that's at 2 AM in the morning perhaps, and at I don't know, midday in a bright sunny day it probably goes up to about 1,000. So it changes from between 60, the lowest I've ever had it, to about 1,009 I think I had it, was the darkest. So they're fine and they're good and they fit in well, and you can get loads of these for next to nothing. So let me have a look where I got those. That wasn't Banggood, that was eBay, so it's probably right. Here are the ones that I purchased. Now you see 99 pence a pound effectively for 20. So go away advertising. Right, so it's 20 of these for a pound. So I mean, you know, it's ridiculous not to just buy 20 and keep them in your cupboard, and they'll probably last you for the next 10 years or whatever. Where did I get them from? Let's have a look. I got them from Deal Today. Was that in the UK? No, it was outside the UK, but it shipped pretty quickly nonetheless. Now, having said that, when I'd installed my last one into my cat run project and then ordered some more, I also found something else. Let's just make this a little bit bigger again. Right, what I found was in fact one of these. Let's just go back to the workbench in full. So this is effectively an LDR, one of the ones you see in here, to all intents and purposes. You can see they're remarkably similar. I suspect they're identical, to be quite honest. But it's encapsulated in this sort of resin holder. I think it's solid resin. Is it hollow? Well, I don't know if it's hollow or just solid. But it's just a neat way of allowing you to install it into your project, isn't it? You drill out a whatever millimetre hole and then just push it in, and if you put a bit of sealant under this lip here, it's probably going to be pretty good. Why has that suddenly come up? Have you seen this suddenly pop up on this screen here? Let's get rid of that. That's my rain sensor project, incidentally still running. Let's have a look where I got that from. It probably was, yes, this one here. So let's switch to the browser. Right, so that was 189. Not bad, as I say. But when you consider how many you can get for 20, it is, well, quite expensive. But then again, for the odd project, you know, that's why I bought two. I thought, well, I'll just keep a couple in. You never know when you're going to need them, especially outdoors. Luckily, my cat run project required the actual LDR to be, you know, in a covered area, so that was fine. But if I had wanted it outside, these would have been absolutely superb, because that's nicely encapsulated there. As I can't really tell if they're solid or not. Probably hollow and they're pushed through. Anyway, they were 189 each, and they were from, God, this seller here, what does that say? 12ABJB12. Got to be a made-up name, isn't it? Okay, so that was that. So comparison between the prices there, but I'd certainly advise you, if you're doing Arduino stuff, get some of these in for £1. You wait maybe 4 weeks or so, and you've got them in for life then, haven't you, effectively? Now, talking of 4 weeks, I've ordered some of this stuff in. It's turned up in like 2 weeks. I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking, what is going on with the China Post? Or the air courier, or whatever it is. It's been absolutely amazing the last 2 or 3 deliveries I've had. Right, that's that out of the way. Now, this one here, I wonder if you can guess what this is. Let's go back to Workbench. So it's obviously encapsulated in some way, and it is waterproof, and it does come on a I think it's a metre or 1.5 metre lead. Well, this is in fact a temperature sensor, the DS18B20 that we've seen in a couple of videos now. But this is waterproof, so I'm going to drop this into my tank in the loft, because I'm in one of these old houses that does have a huge big water tank in the loft. Because during the winter it does get pretty cold up there, and I want to be absolutely sure that it's not going to freeze. So I'm going to drop this into my tank, build a little Arduino project, and have some kind of alert system if it gets cold enough. Now, can I show you this on the eBay site? Let's have a look. Right, it took a little while because it wasn't even on eBay. It was in fact Banggood I got this on. So here it is. Between £2.09 and £5.55. Why the discrepancy? Oh, depending on the length. I can't remember what length this is, and I don't know when I'll unwind it. It's probably a 2 metre one I got. So let's have a look how much is 2 metres. £2.48. What was 1 metre? Oh yeah, for that extra cost I definitely would have got 2 metres here. So that's what this 2 metre wire, and of course you can get them longer, but I didn't need it any longer than that. Right, that's going to be a few future projects, so keep your eyes open for this one. It's a standard DS18B20, but it's as I say, all encapsulated and waterproof and everything else. Right, speakers can move out, we've done those. Now these came from Banggood as well. Now I'm going to have to go back to Workbench and go really close in. Now as you can see, these are absolutely tiny screws. Not quite as small as you get in spectacle frames. You know these things here, these little tiny screws you get here. It's not quite that small, but they are very small, and they're good for going through certain modules and components things to hold them in. And it comes with the nuts and the various length screws. And they are really tiny. Now they came from Banggood. Let me see if I can find those. Right, let's go to browser. Here we are. £6.83, which was, well, I didn't think it was that cheap, but then again, I couldn't get hold of tiny screws like this anywhere in the UK, not for love nor money. So I thought, well, if I buy these, they're going to last me, well, frankly, to the end of my days, I should think. Sounds a bit morbid, doesn't it? But you're not going to use many of these a year. But they would be good for mounting various Arduino sort of peripherals and modules and things. Nanos, for example, might be able to use these because they've got a funny size on the board. Is it something like a 2.5mm hole, something like that? Anyway, so that's that. That's £6.83, which would be about $10, I suppose. Can I change it? Let's have a look. USD. Oh, $8.88. Oh yes, I forgot. The pound's gone into refall, so things are a lot cheaper in dollars these days. Anyway, back to pounds. So that's that one. What else? Right. Power supply sockets. Now, not the most exciting thing in the world perhaps, but this is my little supply, where it was up until a few days ago, and I've just added some. Now normally I use ones like this. In fact, I like circular ones like this better than the square ones. The round ones are easy to mount, of course, because you can just drill out a hole of exactly the right size, being very careful not to go beyond the lip size. The lip size here, look, if you can see it, if I can just make it focus nice and close. The lip size is pretty tiny, it's only 1 millimetre or 1.5 millimetres, so you can't go mad on that size or it will just drop all the way through. Now they're all right, but they're big, quite big and chunky. Then I've got these square ones, a devil to mount. I actually used one of these in the cat run, which I hadn't actually, because it was just too awkward to make that hole. They're really for printed circuit boards. But I did discover these ones. Now this is a real dinky one. It's got a same sort of lip as the other one, but the hole is easier to drill because it's much smaller. And look at this difference in size. If I compare the two, it's like a big fat cousin to a skinny little nephew, isn't it? I mean, look. I mean, very much slimmed down, and so therefore easier to fit into your project. Now if I'd had these when I was doing the cat run, I'd have used one, but as it is, that's when I noticed I was running a bit short, so I ordered some and I saw these and they're great. These are 5.5 millimetre outside diameter, 2.1 inner diameter, which is pretty standard for most sort of 12 volt stuff or less. Now I bought these from eBay. Let me see if I can find that window. Gosh, we're really going through it today, aren't we? Now this was a UK supplier. Plugs to go, plugs with a Z or a Z if you're in America. We know this stuff. Yeah, I bought 10. Was it 10 did I buy? 10 for $4.99, could have been. Yeah, not it's not cheap. How much would 50 be? 50 would be $19.99. That's quite. 2 though would be $1.95. It's not worth buying sort of low value like that. 10 is probably the sort of intermediate. I should have bought more really. But anyway, that's what I bought, and I think they would be good for your project too. So there we are, little tiny things. I wish I'd used these right from day one now. Great, so that's that. Now, one last thing. Oh no, there's a couple more yet. Oh, there's so much going on. This is what I mean, you see. Right, I bought this pad. Let's go back to Workbench. So I bought this pad, and you're going, why am I showing you a pad? But it's grid paper, look. It's a 5mm grid, not 2 5-10mm grid. It's just standard 5mm squares. Okay, and what do I use it for? Well, funny you should ask, because I use it for drawing out circuits and stuff and Arduinos. Now I'd run out of this a long time ago, so I've been on the lookout for it, and I just, for whatever reason, it's just never got around to replacing them. So let's just make a little bit of room on my desk here. Right, now as it happens, I've drawn out a circuit here, which leads me on to a little story. I was taking the dog out for a walk last weekend. That was 2 Sundays ago, in fact. And we walk along, and there in the middle of the road, guess what I spotted? Well, I spotted this. It was just lying there, all sort of beaten and battered. It was actually put together, so this was inside there somehow, and that was lying sort of like that in the gutter. Now, being an honest citizen, I did actually look around to see if I could find out where a house nearby had something similar in its front garden, but I couldn't see anything at all. And it was all, as I say, this is all cleaned up now. It was all pretty manky, and you know, mud all over it, and so it's obviously been there a little while. And I thought, now I was hopeful. I could see immediately these were solar cells, of course, and I was hopeful that inside I'd actually find something like a 3.5 volt lithium. So I took it home, unscrewed it all, but slightly disappointingly it wasn't. It was just these 2 rechargeables, 1.2. However, having taken them out and charged them up, they're absolutely perfect. So at least they'll provide me power to something. And more importantly, there's this little circuit in here, obviously taking the 2 solar cells in parallel coming into here and then connecting up to these batteries. So it charges the batteries during the day with plenty of sunshine, and then at night turns this lamp on. Now I'm going to have to turn all the lights off to show you it does actually work, because I've got it that way but nothing's happening because I've got all the lights on. So let me switch all the lights off and I'll be right back. Well, I didn't actually get very far there, did I? Because it's just come on. Good Lord. That's the first time it's done that without the lights being off. So there we are. And that is bright. You can see that's bright as well. And you're seeing that as a whitish blue LED, and so am I for a change. All right, it's not, hasn't change the colour of the LED. Now that is pretty bright, and it's being supplied at the moment by these two batteries. So I was intrigued to find out what this was, because I was expecting somewhere in here to have some kind of LDR, light dependent resistor, to say don't switch on because there's enough light. But this little chip is cleverer than that, and what I've worked out, and it took some hunting around, it's a 5253 or QX5253, and this is roughly what the circuit looks like. There's a couple of extra resistors on here and this funny switch, which I still haven't worked out what it does, and quite frankly I don't think I can be bothered. That way it works, that way it works, and in the centre it's off. So centre's off, I worked that out, but the other two ways, I don't know what's that doing. As soon as there's any light on those cells, it switches off. That's what intrigued me about this. So I tried to find a PDF, and that was like finding hens with teeth. I tell you, it's almost impossible, but I did find something. So if we go back to the browser window and look for the PDF I got, well, that's actually this one here. Look, now this is in, unfortunately, Chinese. Now my Mandarin Chinese isn't that strong. Yeah, I know, non-existent. But here it is. Look, it's a 5253. This is AliExpress that's actually got this on their website. They say it's not available anymore. Now, this was for 20 pieces, £7.67, which doesn't sound that cheap to me. What's that, 35p each, something like that? Well, perhaps that is then. But what it shows us down here, the information, look, it says that it's a solar lighting device, which it most certainly is, as you can see here. It's definitely solar lighting. It's got two AA batteries, or two nickel metal hydride batteries. Yeah, we've got two of those. Well, these are, what are these? These are metal hydrides, are they? Yeah, these are nickel metal hydrides. That's good, not NiCads. That's brilliant. And it says have to stop switching the system, can be completely cut off from electricity. Okay, sometimes you have to interpret these data sheets a little bit, don't you? What it means is, though, that, what does that say? Patent discharge being shut off without blinking. Okay, well, I've worked out that this circuit here is pretty much this circuit down here that I drew. So I drew this out from just reading the circuit board, and then found this, and lo and behold, that's exactly what it is. Two of the pins on the chip, it's an 8 pin DIL, but two of the pins are not connected. So if I just switch that off again and bring it nice and close to the camera, you'll be able to see on there, perhaps. Okay, you probably can't make out those markings, but it does say 5253 on it. And two of the pins on here are disconnected, so if I turn it upside down, you can see that pins 4 and 8 aren't even soldered in. Okay, so that's really 6 pins then, isn't it? And basically it is as it shows it here. The LED goes from pin 1 to 7. The two solar panels in parallel go to pins 2 and 3, the positive and then common ground, 8. And the battery goes to pin 6 and ground. Now, as I say, there is this funny switch arrangement plus 2 more resistors that I haven't figured out, and to be honest, I can't be bothered to. So I'm just going to forget that. But at least I found out what the chip was, and it's an interesting little chip. I believe it's probably superseded by now, otherwise I'd probably find a bit more information on the internet. That it does kill the LED if this if this solar cell is providing any power at all. So the power from here is obviously being shunted internally to the battery rather than the LED, without the use of an LDR, and then when the solar panels are in the dark and not producing anything, that's when this turns on. So that's pretty neat, isn't it? And I found that on the side of the road, and don't quite know what I'm going to do with it really, because I really wanted that 3.7 volt lithium in here, but wasn't to be. But I'm sure I'll find a use for this, and in fact the solar cells. I measured the solar cells. It doesn't give a lot of current, something like 5 milliamps or something, but obviously these were pretty charged up when I found this unit. Terribly dirty, and in fact the switch here is still all rusty now. It's got a lot of rust on it, and the pins here, look, you just see there's still rust on the ICs. So I'm guessing that this has been wet and sitting out in that road for quite some time before I snaffled it. But that was an interesting little find on my dog walking route, and it shows you how nice it is to draw on graph paper, because you can get all your lines nice and square and whatever. Yeah. So if you're into Arduino project design in any way, I'd certainly recommend graph paper like this, 5mm squared. All right, it says it on there. Now you don't have to get A4 if you like smaller pads, you know, A5. Go for that as well. I sometimes use A5. In fact, you've seen them in previous videos where I can do little diagrams and all that, because it fits the camera better. Look, you can see how big this is on the camera. It's too big, isn't it? But for me personally, while I'm drawing stuff, it's great. Right, I'm going to call a halt there, because this video goes on for a while with a few more items that I found, all very interesting, but I want to get this video out. So I'll put the second part of interesting stuff that I've found and bought sometime in the future. But I hope the bits that I have found here and have demonstrated have been of interest to you. Certainly if you're into sort of Arduino project building, it's always worthwhile getting a small stock of stuff, because otherwise I've found that you want to experiment, you want to try a few things out, and you're just stumped at the very first hurdle because you haven't got an LDR, you haven't got some bolts or a speaker or whatever it is. So it's worthwhile scouring the Far East if you're in a part of the world that allows that. It does make life a lot easier. Okay, that's the end of this. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you're finding these videos useful and interesting. Please leave comments down below, subscribe, share, and give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.